Good evening. All right. So, apologize. I am literally 12 minutes late. I thought I had more time. Time is moving fast now. So, welcome. For those who are here, I don't know if anyone's here. Let's see. I'm going live here. Let's say 6 o'clock, right? Yeah, 6 o'clock my time. So, we'll see. Okay. What I'm going to do right now is, since nobody's here yet, I'm going to okay, change this thing here. Okay. Okay. Yeah, it's a good timing actually. Nobody's here yet, so that's totally fine. So this will be part of the recording. So welcome to my channel. For those who don't know me, my name is Jose. Okay. And I specialize in micro-astrology, which is basically what I call astrology for asteroids. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to send a message to the quick chat here. Be right back. Okay. Okay. All right. So let's see. Okay. Good. Yeah. So have fun talking to you guys. It will be still live, so I'll be here though. Okay. I'll be back. Oh. All right, so I'm back. So it's a weird start off for a live thing. So I'm gonna do is I'm gonna edit it. Skip over to the 12 minutes. Okay. So all right. Let's see who else is coming in. Wow. Okay. I'm just gonna type in the password. Won't read my okay. Let's see what happens here. Can't have a live without not having a live people to go to. Right, so let's see here. What did I post? What did I write down? Uh, share this. Yep. Let's see. All right. Testing this out still. Seeing what happens. Okay. See if I put this here. All right. Okay, let's see what happens. Anybody here? Okay, sorry, I'm just sending out a bunch of things. And we'll see who comes in. All right, so it's already been 18 minutes. We need to kind of start. All right, so this is my experience with Pluto. The story is basically that, first of all, for those who don't know much about astrology and or have heard of things like Pluto and all that stuff, is that Pluto is, it's god of the underworld. Okay, so Hades and all that stuff, right? Um, he's kind of similar in both the Greek and the Roman version. So he's basically he abducted Persephone, or rather, in the Roman equivalent, Proserpina, out from Ceres. He kind of just said, "I don't. There's something about Pluto is wanting to be in power." Because he was, according to many of the movies, he was basically banished by his brother Zeus. So they were. There's more to it than the myth itself, but Pluto is. If you look at the where Pluto is located, he's very much like way out there. So past Neptune. So he has an orbit of over, what is it, over 300 something to 200 something. I don't remember the actual dates. Um, those are the things I don't really care too much about because it's more of an astronomy thing, although it does apply in astrology. I'm just not there yet. But he has a very long orbit around the sun. So what that signifies is very slow progress, slow moving things. He often signifies, yes, we know about the underworld kind of stuff, dark stuff, okay, whatever. It's kind of scary. It's a blah blah blah. But the gift of Pluto really is genuineness, because he wanted something real. So that's why he's basically abducted, kidnapped Proserpina. And what that led to is the change in seasons. So Ceres was Proserpina's mother, or the Greek equivalent, or the original, I can say original, was what is it? The seasons. It created the seasons. So this is why there's spring, summer, which is when Proserpina is back in with her mother. So there's flowers growing, all that stuff. But when Proserpina goes to the underworld, there's fall and winter. So fall and winter just means that, hi Terry. So it just means that it's an opportunity to settle down. Like right now, it's fall. So if you think about the symbolism behind all of it, which is pretty much an astrology thing, you want to understand astrology, you have to be able to go through mythology, go through the mythology of it, because it's all representative, it's all symbolic, and it's fun. We all love stories, right? So, I mean, that's why I love movies with mythology in it. Like there's several that I could name. There's one, what was it? Or the gods of Egypt or something like that. And then there's a bunch of things, they're all part of the stories. If you watch Xena's one of my favorite shows. Ah, la, 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 la. So I can't do it the high pitched voice with what Lucy Lawless does. I think she's the one who did the voice. I know that she had stunt people. But anyways, so there's mythology there in that show too. Let's see here. So what is this one? Okay, so Pluto is just like pretty much like Hades, although the Greek version is a little bit darker. It's a little bit more serious. It's a little bit more real. It's a little bit, thank you, Terry. Um, so um, let's see here. So Pluto is basically going into your darkest side of yourself and wondering, it's like, why would you rape someone? Why would you? Because that's what it is. Pluto was he abducted Proserpina, but he also raped her. I think that's in the Greek equivalent, more in the Greek equivalent though, or I want to say equivalent, the original. Um, so when Hades abducted Persephone from Demeter, he forced her to be his queen. He actually didn't force her by just forcing her. He seduced her with a pomegranate. So if you look at Pluto, Pluto represents pomegranates. Uh, that's more of a Persephone thing. Um, but still, it's pomegranates. So that was his lure. So that's Pluto. Pluto is lured into the darkness. You know, when you go into darkness, when this is why Pluto fits a lot in with the sign of Scorpio, because it is all about seduction and all that stuff. But what people don't understand about Scorpio energy, particularly Pluto, first of all, they're not really the same. Pluto is more about, mm, let's say, Pluto is more about the actual embodiment of power, whereas Scorpio just kind of seeks power. It only knows kind of like what he wants to be cathartic in its experience. He wants to have really like beyond death kind of thing. Uh, Pluto isn't really per se about death per se. He's not like the god Thanatos. There's actually an asteroid called Thanatos. I believe there is one. Let me double check here. If there is one, then we have a winner. We don't have one. Let's see here. There is an asteroid called Hades, by the way. Yes, there is one. It's like, why is it an asteroid? Oh, I don't know. That's the astronomical community. Um, so anyways, the what was my point here? Let me backtrack a little bit. So okay, so Pluto is about power, right? The what Judy Hall calls the use, misuse, and abuse of power. So when someone is tyrannical over someone, someone is trying to take over someone, or being in control of things, that's where Pluto comes in. Now, do we have such a thing as called higher vibrations in astrology? And it just means that it's a more, of course, evolved part of um, how they relate with each other, kind of like that planet. That's the way I understand it. So, for example, Pluto is a high vibration of Mars, but the high vibration of Pluto actually is Eris. Eris was the goddess of discord in Greek mythology. She's hardly talked about because you're like, who's Eris? Why does it sound like Aries? Well, because they're Aries, the god of war, the goddess of discord, or rather, Eris was his sister. Okay, so why I'm mentioning the whole high vibration is that when it comes to Pluto, if you think about Pluto, he's just like Mars, except he's not always like fighting. He's quite subtle. He's what's that word? Insidious. He's insidious in his ways. So this is one of the things I learned about being a Plutonian. Sun Pluto conjunction in my chart. Actually, it's trying my moon. Um, is being able to surrender into the power itself without actually giving into the power. You give over to the power. But I didn't know that as a young person. I was just kind of like, I wanted to be in control, but I was very kind of quiet about things. I've been told that I can be read not as, if you look at my ascendant, it's in Cancer. And it's people like, oh, um, okay, thanks, Terry. So it's not like, um, what do you call this? What was I saying? So Cancer usually is kind of like quiet, or rather wants security and all that stuff, right? Not very open, because of the shell, the representative of Cancer in the shell and all that stuff. But that's how I typically would appear. I'm hard to read. But when people get to know me even more, they still think I'm kind of secretive. So people assume I'm kind of Scorpio, but I'm not. I just have a lot of placements in Scorpio. So when I say I'm not, this is the other thing about astrology. Don't get stuck in the stereotypes that pop astrology or past hundreds of years have put out there. Be like, oh, you're this, or you're that, or you're that. No, you're more than one thing. Because if you don't embrace all parts of you, you don't embrace the archetypes of you, your aspects of you, every part, you're going to reject them, and then you're gonna basically project that onto other people. So this is how we get along, by embracing all of ourselves. So if you meet someone who's too talkative or too quiet, that's a part of you. There's always something there. This is why in astrology you have the wheel. If you look at a chart, you have all the signs in there. Exactly what it is. Now, in terms of what planets are in what signs, depending on what it is, that just means that's the lessons your an aspect of yourself wants to learn, an aspect of your soul wants to learn. So that's what it is. So, okay. So that's my experience. That's kind of the gist of what my experience with Pluto is. Um, he's about genuineness. He's not, but a lot of times when it comes to genuineness, it's not necessarily genuine to expect what you want from others. It's more of like, what is it that you want? Specifically, if you have Sun Pluto conjunction or Sun Moon conjunction. Moon is, in this case, it's more about your emotions, your basic needs, your uh, in terms of like you're very instinctive. There's a very instinctive feel to the Moon and Pluto conjunction. It's like you sense your surroundings. Your magnetism is kind of like you can be quite attractive to others. You can be quite magnetic to others. I can be as well, but that's because my Sun conjunction Pluto is trying to Moon. That's just showing that that's what I have. That's another thing I wanted to place, that when it comes to astrology, not a lot of people. There's still a lot of people in the world who rely on astrology as if it's the answer to everything, or rather, just like any tool in the world, it's like this is what I am. This is what it is. It's like it's another form of identification. You're identifying with a tool when in fact it's a tool that helps you. It's like a stepping stone. It's like words that you use in English, in the everyday language, or whatever language you speak. That's exactly what it is. Okay, so um, what else is here? So yeah, so Pluto is power. He's also about trauma, because that's the whole rape thing. Because taking power over this, rape is not sex. And that's interesting how Pluto is a high vibration of Mars, but actually that's because once you go into sex is vulnerability, right? So, but sex is a representation of the vulnerability that you want to share with someone. That's why when it comes to sex, things that happen online, the porn industry, that's a very corrupted form of sex, right? Because it's not, I mean, corrupted as in not necessarily as an entity as a whole, but it is, um, it's become, it's advertised. It's kind of like saying, what do you call this? Let's make an industry out of like emotions. It's kind of like saying, "Oh, feel sad for 99 cents. Feel happy for $200." Da, da, da. And it's like, seriously? Like, so, yeah. Yeah. Okay. Um, well, I was planning to do a sorry. Thanks, sorry. I was planning to do a reading just for everyone. Um, so, but we'll see what happens here. So, let's see here. Um, let's see, my Pluto. Oh, sorry. What is my experience? What else is the experience with my Pluto here? Uh, so okay, so Pluto is about power, trauma, and also genuineness. Um, when I say genuineness, usually people see that as some sort of like what is genuine to them. What Pluto does is it exaggerates it like a millionfold. Pluto wants something so real, because what has happened is that it's Pluto rules viruses, bacteria, fungi, the mycelial network, things that, of course, the things that go bump in the night, monsters, taboo, cannibalism. Um, Sex is still part of that a little bit. Um, uh, Infanticide, patricide, homicides, those kind of very dark things, but it's more about not like the Scorpio sort of thing with the eighth house. That's more of that thing. Pluto is more about why we do those things in the first place. Why do we get into those things? It's really the embodiment of your what is it that you want? Like, why do you want power in the first place? What is power about? Because there's an aspect of us that is always about power, right? Because when we don't have it in life, especially if people who get blamed to be narcissistic are not necessarily narcissistic per se. There are certain according to R.J. Spina. I don't know if you know R.J. Spina. For those who know him, he talks about narcissists as a different. They're not actually human, but they're a different species. They're a different. Well, I wouldn't say species. They're a different entity. They come in and they just sort of put that. But many people get blamed or they get ostracized for having narcissistic tendencies, when in fact narcissism, an aspect of not necessarily narcissism, but narcissism itself, because it comes from the concept of Narcissus, which is an asteroid, by the way. It is kind of tied to Pluto. Narcissus is is an aspect of Pluto where he is not satisfied with projected beauty, so he projects it onto himself. Narcissism is one of the dark triads. It's called the dark triad: narcissism, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy, or is it sociopathy? Whatever, those kind of things. So it is when your basic needs are not met, and you're basically, it's kind of like a reverse of compassion, basically, when people are not compassionate towards you, all that kind of stuff. So, oh, hello, Lauren. Hi. Um, let's see here. Um, yeah, so narcissism and like that, but it's kind of a Pluto thing as well. So, okay, so now, not that you have an idea of what Pluto is, but he's way more than what I mentioned earlier. So again, so power struggles, power plays, all that kind of stuff. Tyranny, that's part of that. Um, the pandemic was a strong Pluto placement. It was conjunct Saturn, and Saturn represents the public. Saturn represents the masses. Saturn also represents fear. Whom, by the way, Saturn has a higher vibration. He's called Varuna. He's not the fear-based Saturn that we usually are used to, like when creating limitations, years of limitations, years you don't know what's ahead, you don't know. So he's also tied to karma. Varuna, however, is more like a trusting in your inner ability to do what Saturn does, except it's very timed with the divine and natural forces that is within and without. So Varuna rules bridges. He rules what's the word? What was the word I'm looking? Adhesives, kind of like bridging things together, understanding that it's like Varuna comes from the he was one of the gods in Indian mythology, East Indian mythology. Um, and so he's a high vibration of Saturn. I love Varuna actually. It's very when you have good Varuna placements in your chart, you know how to time what you do. You know how to solidify things. You know how to what Saturn is referred to as calcification or structuring things. That is Varuna. So, like I said today, I'll be doing asteroids. Technically, well, Varuna is not an asteroid. Varuna is a dwarf planet. By the way, it's non-basic astrology. So, okay, let's see. Yes, I remember, Lauren. Yes, thank you. Okay, so What was this one here? What else is my experience? Okay, so there's other planets that are associated with Pluto. One of them is Lilith, and there are people who know Lilith. Lilith actually has technically four sides to her, astrologically speaking. So Lilith is kind of like the equivalent to Pluto. She's really about shadow, how you face your own demons. So she's an aspect of Pluto. I mean, all the planets are an aspect of the whole. It's an aspect of the ego. That's really what it is. Um, when I say ego, I mean like both the unhealthy and healthy egos. Okay. So Lilith is, there's an asteroid called Lilith. And so for those who don't know the story of Lilith, she was the first wife of Adam, but she was cast out because she didn't succumb to or adhere to the what do you call this, the um, the demands of Adam, because Adam thought it's like, oh, you came from my rib, da 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 da. And so she's like, no, I'm not under you. I am equal to you. But, Lilith represents that whole um, imbalance between matriarchy and patriarchy, or the divine and the male and the female energies, the duality. We all live in a duality in this universe. So that's that. When you have a dichotomy like that, when you have a duality, when you have sort of, I guess you can say, existential dysphoria, it's like this whole, what the fuck? I don't know how to handle this thing. So, you know, I don't know. I'm just showing off here, but I think as a gay man, this is going to trigger some buttons. I kind of hope it is going to. Sorry, this is the hero side of me. Um, that I feel like as a queer person, because I embrace my feminine side, or at least I've been I've kind of felt like I've had to. I don't know how to put it this way. It's almost like, compared to my heterosexual siblings and brothers and sisters, literal, biological, and also you guys. Um, I've had to become aware of both sides almost right away. I mean, as I grow older, because I mean, like, it's almost like, I don't know. But anyways, that's where the trigger comes. I don't want to get too political about that. The point is, um, when it comes to this equality thing that Lilith wants, she didn't get that because it's Adam is, I'm the man, I'm the head of the house kind of thing, right? So read up on Lilith and you'll see that she's quite, people say she's dark. So the four sides to her. So there's the asteroid, which is like the real embodiment to her. When I see side, I don't necessarily mean side in that case. So okay, maybe there is four sides, but really three sides. One is they're basically, in astrology, there are, what do you call it, three sides to her. There's the past, kind of present, and the future kind of thing. But it's not really past, present, future thing. There's a triplicity side to her where she represents um, the early onset of separation from status quo, or separation from over what do you call this, tyrannical rule, or like the system and all that stuff. She represents that. So she basically left Adam, and then she said, fuck you, I'm going to just do my own thing because you don't accept me. So she didn't necessarily run away. She was ostracized. She was banished. um don't quote me on that one. I believe she was banished. Okay. um I believe she was banished. Yeah, yeah. And so what happened was, um she wasn't, in favor of the status quo, the system. She was anti-system. So she's very much like, people who are, there are feminists out there who have very strong Lilith placement. I'm kind of have that in my placement. When I talk, my Lilith, the asteroid, is conjunct my Mercury Uranus. So when I speak, when I was younger, I used to, because it's in Scorpio, is very much like, it will explode, but it wasn't necessarily like, I would challenge people's point of views, especially in the home. It's in my fourth house. So, um, anyways, so Lilith is one of those. So she has three sides. There's the sort of her rebellious side, the beginning phase, and then there's the realization side, and then there's the final phase of just like, that's fine. I'm totally fine with who I am. Others don't need to accept me. I don't need to be validated for it. So she's that kind of, she's really tied to shadow work. There are other planets, other asteroids that are tied to Pluto as well that are about shadow work, and one of them is oh, it's not an asteroid. It's a dwarf planet called Orcus. Orcus was the god of the underworld in Etruscan mythology. For those who don't know Etruscan, what is Etruscan? It's where the word Tuscany comes from in Italy. It's that region where the Etruscans used to live. There's probably their descendants is that region too, is in that region. They were before the Romans were there. In fact, the Etruscans were there around when the ancient Greeks were as a culture, as a civilization. So the Orcus is the god of the underworld. But Orcus, the way Orcus differs from how Orcus differs from Pluto is that Orcus is more about integrity. Yes, it's tied to genuineness, but integrity as in like our beliefs. Orcus goes into more of the subconscious of an individual. Like if you say you have Orcus, you tend to be quite honest, not necessarily blunt. That's where the Pluto thing comes in. But Orcus is more about integrity. It's like, what do you want exactly? So Orcus rules surveillance. If you see those CAPTCHA, those things like password, like those kind of things, that's Orcus. Um, so yeah, so he's about integrity. He's also about shadow work. So, I mean, shadow work, not necessarily in terms of like the emotions, but more like, what are your unconscious beliefs about things? And when you say something, do you mean what you say what you mean? Where is that coming from? Because sometimes we'll say something and we think that's what it is, but that's just the conscious mind going at it. Orcus is like, um, you know, you have to be sure what you're saying, what you're expressing, what you're relaying, what you're telling the world, or even yourself. The story is basically where he was said to follow this one guy who said, what is this? Something about him, something about this guy who said that he was going to, he was selling stuff. He was a merchant, and then he said that he was going to do whatever he's going to do, and then Orcus said something like he'll be back, and then but the person lied to Orcus, saying, or Orcus was actually, what is it? He was in a sort of different. He was in a cloak of some sort, or something like disguise, or something like that. I forgot what it was. I'd have to look back into the mythology, but that's basically the gist of it. So, Orcus is one of those when the cat's away, the mice will play. That's Orcus. So, um, okay, okay, okay. Let's see what else we have here. I know you guys have questions. Let's pose it after. Let's see here. Thank you for coming, by the way. I appreciate this. Who else is tied to Pluto? Anubis, Osiris. Okay. So here's where I'm giving you the ones that I'm familiar with. Okay, the ones that I've worked with. I have actually myself have I haven't done offerings. I don't talk to deities and I offer to them because they know that's like, why am I going to offer to deities? I don't do that kind of thing. They know how I am. But I've said prayers to deities before, kind of like an aspect of myself, right? That's basically what it is. So the way I find Osiris to work. So Osiris, let's start with Osiris. Osiris is very humble. He was kind of a player. He apparently slept with his brother's wife. Um, you straight people. I'm just kidding. um, so he slept with his brother's wife, but many people don't know that. Um, that he did that, and this is why he was chopped into pieces by his brother Sethos. Um, but what happened? There's a link between him and Sethos and Anubis, by the way. So but Osiris is basically okay. I'll explain what the story is a little bit. So Osiris is the god of the underworld, right? Um, and his sister wife, yes, that was common but those are, I feel, symbolic. Sister wife was meant to be like the intimate part of you. Right. I believe that the reason why they had sister wives is because, or brother husbands, is because it's more about the intimacy of the love itself. It was more meaningful back then. It doesn't mean that you sleep with your siblings, although humans still still take things literally, and that's okay too. I'm just saying, can't always take it literally. Um, what is this one? So, okay? So Osiris's sister wife is Isis. So what happened was when Sethos chopped him into pieces, Isis looked for his body in the reeds, but couldn't find one thing. Guess what it was? Okay, so he basically Osiris. So Isis had to remodel uh, a phallus in the place of the one that was missing. So this is what Osiris represents. Osiris represents not the phallus itself, but missing parts. He represents. He also represents near-death experiences. So it's quite different from Pluto, right? You can probably tell already. It's like different from Orcus, but there's an aspect of Pluto just like that. So Osiris is also about what is it? Fraternal betrayals. So brotherly betrayals. And I know my own brother did that. I'm just like, oh yeah, that's right. I looked at this Osiris into my chart. I was like, oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, he did betray. Okay, betray as in like just he was in a different journey. Da, da, da. That's what it is. So Osiris also rules. What do you call those? I was gonna say crutches. What is it? Not replicas. When you get amputated and you need a leg, and you need a leg or something like that, when you have you know what I'm talking about, like that kind of stuff, replacement parts or something like that. It could be for a car too, and that's fine. That's Osiris as well. So Osiris represents that part of yourself that has to go through fragmentation. That's exactly Osiris too, which is funny because fragmentation is a part of shadow work. When we don't fragment, we don't expand because we're little pieces. If you Empress, what is this? Empress something. She's from Germany or something like that. She does channeling stuff and starseed stuff. Anyways, Empress something on YouTube. Um, she said, what was it? Sorry, I'm backtracking here. What did I say? So Osiris is, and then so I lost my train of thought. This happens once every now and then. Um, so Osiris represents fragmentation. Okay, so we can't expand if we're not, Oh no, that wasn't Empress something. Who was it that chocolate cake? Someone made an analogy of a chocolate cake that's so perfect. There's this one channeler from or psychic. I don't know what it is. She's from South Africa. I forgot her name. She said that imagine God or universe or source energy, whatever you call it, um, as this perfect chocolate cake, right? He's already perfect. So why create things? Why expand? What the fuck is that all about? Because in order to figure out what's more than the chocolate cake, you have to take apart its ingredients. So the eggs, for those who are whatever, eggs, flour, milk, etc., baking powder, whatever. You take those parts, and then you work with those parts too, so that that's basically kind of like fragmentation. Because if you think about the way things are in terms of how it's manifested it into this form now, think of like dust particles. First you see, oh, it's light. Okay, it's very light, right? It's light energy. It's light. It feels light. But if you collect all the dust in one room or one space, if you cramp it, you go like this. Yeah, I can say fuck here. This is my channel. So so you cramp you basically, you know, make it into a piece of ball until it's dense, right? That's exactly how things work. That's the way I see it, at least. So when it comes to fragmentation, there's parts of it that needs to be fragmented from you. You are the universe is inside you. You are the universe itself. So when you fragment, it's part of the universe saying, "I am also fragmenting because I need to expand." That's how it works. But do we choose to, as Bashar puts it, do we go positive, meaning expansive, or do we go negative, as in constrictive? That's basically what it is. And it makes total sense now. It's giving me comfort to be like, oh, that's right. Good, bad, whatever. That's not what it is. Because if we say good and bad, we have an opposition to either side already, right? Usually it's the bad part. But if we see it as expansive or constrictive, then we realize, oh, constrictive just means settling down, processing the emotions, all those kind of things. So this is all very Plutonian. Plutonian stuff, literal energies, is all about processing inwards, going inwards, processing, healing, processing. This just goes round and round and round and round and round. And I feel right now that's why there's such things as circular things, because you repeat things even if you haven't learned a lesson yet. To learn the lesson, and even if you've learned a lesson, you will still go round and round and round. This is the circle of life. Okay, so um, that's very Plutonian. At the very least, it's something. It's all part of the whole process. Everything in the universe is round, right? So a round thing. I love round things. No, I don't love boobs. Don't go give me boobs. Okay. Okay. So there's another character. Okay, so this is where I'm going to talk about Anubis. Anubis is, yes, he's also the god of the underworld, but he was a god of embalming. He was a god of funeral rites, funerals, you know, post mortem things. Let's just call it that, right? Post mortem things. So, um, how he's related to Sethos and Osiris is that when Sethos um, cut him into pieces, he was rescued. But what happened was, in order before he was even brought back to life, Osiris, I mean, what happened was Sethos, because Sethos is very, very much Sethos is seen as the bad guy. He's kind of like he represents villains. He also represents deserts because he was banished. He was actually banished for what he did. But then you see how it's kind of unfair too, right? Osiris has to fall apart in order for rather Osiris as in systems to realize, oh shit, I don't need to be in charge. There's something that is challenging me to see that what I did was also wrong. To see that even though I banished my brother, Sethos, um, he also has the right to express what he expressed, not necessarily in chopping people up, but it's more like Sethos is that representation of the side of him that it's like, well, I didn't do anything wrong to you. Why the fuck did you do this? Right. So exactly what it is, right? It's funny because it's like Osiris is cool and all that stuff. Like, well, both did something wrong. Both did something that was damaging to each other. People might say, well, sleeping with your partner, sleeping with your sibling partner isn't as bad as being chopped to pieces. On the other part, it doesn't matter. The point is damage was done. How do we go from there? So also, what do you call this? Like actually, if you think about it, Sethos, even though he represents deserts, um, he kind of is just like Pluto, or rather Hades, when he was banished to the underworld by Zeus, right? It's the same thing. It's the same story. But in this case, of course, in this case, asteroids represents more specific things. What else was there? Okay, so when he wanted to actually go to what is it? Anubis, because he's an embalmer. He represents mummies as well. Um, he He's all about preservation as well. So anything that we want to preserve, anything sort of values we want to preserve, he's all about honor. He's all about what's the word I'm looking for? Uh, the opposite of defamation. I wouldn't say honor, but yeah, honor. Sure, that's as far as I can. So basically, respecting the dead, respecting that which is transitioning. He's also represents ushers, anyone who guides. He represents those who are guiding spirits. That's Anubis. But Anubis is also about, because he's much like, you will not defile. There's the word defilement. You will, oh, defamation. Did I say defamation? Okay, you do not defile the body of Osiris. So when Sethos wanted to, just defile, because he was already in a sarcophagus, I believe, Osiris. Um, what Anubis does, he subdued Sethos and he flayed him. That's where we got the leopard skins. He's Anubis represents leopard skins, or rather skinning, flaying. I know, very gruesome and dark and somewhat. That's what it is. So because it means that you have to have respect. You have to honor things that are valuable to certain people. Just have that boundary, because it's like, you've done your part. You chopped it into pieces. What more do you want? Right. So that's Anubis. Okay. So that's the story of the three. Um, who else here? Isis represents more of love side. Uh, Persephone, of course, and Proserpina. There's two asteroids named after both of them. Of course, Persephone is like Lilith, except Persephone is the whole. She's the one who likes bad boys. If you're into the whole bad boy kind of vibe, kind of like, ooh, I love him. It's a daredevil kind of stuff, right? That's Persephone. Persephone is she's the dark side of like earthly attraction and lust. There's more to her. She's about BDSM. It's like Lilith too. She's very much like Lilith. BDSM, um, whipping, leather. That's Persephone. But there's a beauty to Persephone too. She is what do I know about her? She's also about that whole restoration thing, because she's in between Ceres or Demeter and Pluto or Hades. She's like in between that. So she has light and dark to her, equal sides to her. So yeah. I'd have to look back into Persephone, what she's about. But who else? Okay, so what are other parts? What other asteroids or dwarf planets are tied to Pluto? Oh, um, there's two centaurs. They're called centaurs. The reason they're called centaurs, I don't know why. Centaurs, okay, asteroids fly between Mars and Jupiter. Right? There's a huge belt there, the asteroid belt. Centaurs fly between Saturn and Neptune, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. It's kind of in between those. So they're kind of everywhere. Centaurs often represents transition from integration into this, into that. There are two centaurs that are closer to more Plutonian stuff. One of them is Ixion, and the other one is Nessus. Now, I'm not sure about Nessus, but I've seen him as like a potential for abuse. But Ixion is the one he's the father of the centaurs. People might think it wasn't it Chiron, but no. Ixion was the first centaur, not Chiron. Chiron was already a centaur when he was born. But Ixion wasn't born a centaur. He was human, or he had um, anthropomorphous, whatever, humanoid. He looked humanoid. So he's about actual bliss, like absolute bliss. Because what happened was what was it? There's two things he did wrong. Wrong. He had killed his uncle, or was it his grandfather? He had killed his family. So back then in ancient Greece, that's like no, that's like illegal. That is against customs and all that stuff. And then he was invited to a banquet by Zeus, to kind of saying, okay, that's fine. I can probably understand why you did that. You were so fucking angry because you were so suppressed, that stuff. Um, and then what happened was he got drunk, I think, in the banquet, and he tried to seduce Hera, or Zeus's wife, sister wife. Um, and then he was like, Zeus said, "That's it, no more." So this is when Zeus basically chained him to the wheel of eternity of suffering. So he just spins for eternity. Yeah, I think he's nailed or something to the wheel or something like that. I don't know what it was. But basically, Ixion represents true carnal desires that have to be met. So otherwise, they become extreme. Ixion represents violations. So this is the side of Pluto that is focused on when you're violating things, when you're abusing things. He's, you're given only so many chances from a human perspective. So he's about second chances as well. Mm. Oh, there's another asteroid. This is one. She's kind of she's kooky, but also weird and really dark. Her name is Lamea. Lamea was, I think, she's just human. What happened was she lost children. She lost her children. So I think it was a miscarriage or something like that. But she was so bereft by the whole thing that she ended up grieving so much to the point where she started stealing children, and she basically either kept them for herself or ate them. There's different versions, I believe, something like that. So she's about the deep womb wound, or she's like loss of children. So that's what she represents. She represents cannibalism. She represents um, pregnancy issues, miscarriages, those kind of things. Very heavy stuff. Right? So very heavy stuff. But Lamea represents um, that part of us that chooses to give up, that chooses to say, "I'm going to be a victim in all this." That's basically what she is. To put it simply. But there is a choice, of course. Right. So how do we deal with loss? She represents a lot of grieving, a lot of loss. She's kind of tied to Anubis. Um, so I don't know. How do I explain what else she has? What else does she represent? Yeah, Lamea is very interesting character in Greek mythology. She she's also like the boogeyman. That's her. So she's kind of like, in a way, also like Lilith, but not where she eats children. So she represents the boogeyman, but also, the Wicked Witch, the not the, what do you call that? The Hansel and Gretel, that one, the Wicked Witch there. Yeah, that's Lamea. so so before Hansel and Gretel's, candy house thing, which came, there was Lamea. So there you go. Um, not Lemurian, Lamea, Lameia. Okay. Uh, who else is part of Pluto? There's a bunch of other ones too. So there's one interesting dwarf planet which is out there, past Pluto. He's called Chaos. And for those who don't know Chaos in Greek mythology, Chaos was primordial energy. Chaos is the beginning of all energies, kind of like source energy. So chaos in a chart represents that ability to be in touch, like with, like, it's, I don't know, it's very close to that energy. Um, kind of like starting over again. I believe that because chaos is retrograde in my 10th house, in Taurus. So I feel like with chaos, there's something about starting over because it makes sense to me where I've had to find different ways of finding a career vocation. But chaos, I don't know. Chaos is on the top of my little cheat sheet that I have. I have a little cheat sheet for those who don't know. For those who are going to see this in my channel. But basically, it's just primordial energy. For those who have heard of the mother of creation, she's the source of souls or something like that. I don't know. That's just great. If you watch, I think Elunia has channeled her, but Ann Tucker has come. She's come to Ann Tucker. She's channeled the mother of creation. So chaos is kind of like that. What else is she about? I am not looking into my cheat sheet right now to see what it is because I was planning on doing that for a general reading for an asteroidal dwarf planet centaur kind of reading. Okay, so let's see what happens. Let's see. What I'm going to do is I'm going to share this window, this tab. This is just for today. Okay, here we go. Those who don't know, so you go to astro.com. This is where you can find things. So let's take a look at what these. Okay, so we had Ixion. Let's look at Orcus and let's look at Anubis. Let's look at Sethos too. Osiris. Oh, there's also, I think I finished my research on one other asteroid. It's not an asteroid, it's a dwarf planet. Let me see if it's here. Ooh, I kind of did. All right. What I'm going to do, okay. Mors Somnus. He is a dwarf planet tied to two mythological beings because it's actually a dwarf planet that's two. It's like I think it's called a binary dwarf planet. It means that it's there's two in one. It looks like it's kind of like, ew, they're attached to each other. Oh, what's that? Oh, I think they gravitate toward each other. I'm not sure. I forgot. Okay, so there's that. What did I say earlier? Oh, Lilith. Let's include the other aspects of Lilith. Okay, H12, H13, H58. Okay. Oh, you know what I'm going to do? I'm also going to include Lucifer. Asmodeus as well. She's the demon of trickery. There's a daughter of Eris. She's called. I guess she's kind of like called Pluto. No, I'm not gonna. No, it's okay. What else is there? Oh yeah, I mentioned Nessus. And then I also had Lamea here. Let's see. What else did I mention? You guys remember? Like something. Don't see the screen. It's not. Lauren, can you see it? I don't know. I know I'm sharing it. Maybe it's just not showing up right now. Let's see here. There's another asteroid. Oh, I totally forgot about from what do you call this? From Norse mythology. Hell. Hell is exactly like Pluto, except she's cool. I like her. She's also about Hell is also about shapeshifting. That's the difference between her and Pluto. You'll see what I mean. So, in the Norse mythology, according to Norse mythology, Hell is Hell is half human, like looking humanoid looking, and half disfigured. So there's a part of her that is very much like she represents like suffering. She represents deformation or disformation. Um, who else am I putting here? Sethos, Anubis, Osiris, Lilith. I mentioned Lilith. I mentioned Orcus. Oh yeah, Persephone. Persephone and Proserpina, both the Greek and Roman equivalents. Okay, I think that's it for now. If there are more later, we'll add them. Okay, so let's see here. Today is October 9. I'm using Greenwich time, mean time, because this isn't specified to one specific place. Okay. I'm not going to use transits because that's what it is here already. Okay. I'm just going to use that window. Okay, so here we go. Let's see. So we start with Pluto naturally. Okay, so as of October 9, 2025, Pluto is in retrograde. For those who haven't seen the video I posted on Pluto through the Dwads in Aquarius, it goes into detail about the entry points of Pluto into specific points where Dwads add a color to the Aquarian flavor where Pluto is going to be the next 15, 20 years. So right now it's in retrograde, and often that means it's focusing on healing, focusing on shadow work, focusing on, we call it shadow work, but really what it is not necessarily, doesn't necessarily be called shadow work, but it is that. It's just a terminology. It's just going deep into your subconscious by through the emotions. You have to go through the emotions. You have to allow for it. You have to surrender through it and go past any emotional like messages until you get a message. Like you'll know what it is. You'll know it intuitively, instinctively. Okay. Um, I'm just going into that, but it's also about transformations, transmutation, power struggles. Let me go deep into that one by using my little thing here. 1 second. Okay. Okay. Let's see here. So there's different aspects of Pluto that I mentioned earlier. Like here, Pluto is monsters in the closet. That's Lamia. Entrance to the shadow, Lilith, the underworld. Hidden from view. Okay. Any sort of replication. You notice that replication. Um, that's Osiris. Okay. The masses. Okay. Oh, that's also the masses. That's why it was the pandemic. Waste, subversion, atomic power, crime, corruption. A lot of this stuff is Ixion and then Nessus as well. Power struggles, phobias, obsession, slow growth, transmutation. Oh, there's an asteroid that I'm missing here. He's called Apophis. I like that name. Apophis. Apophis was the serpent in Egyptian mythology. He was super long, like long. So Apophis represents things that are done in the long haul, the long run. Um, Patience. He's also about subjectivity, but also subversion, which is also Pluto. Um, he represents being ostracized as well. There's more to Apophis than that, but we're going through Pluto right now. So, okay, so Pluto is also power struggles, like we said, phobias, obsession, slow growth, transmutation, birth, death, rebirth, isolation, coercion, disappearance, kidnapping, anonymity, bacteria, viruses, generation, regeneration, degeneration, alchemy, elimination, metamorphosis. Metamorphosis is actually also tied to Sedna, which is the furthest known um, dwarf planet right now. She has about 1,000-year orbit around the sun, so she's really slow. But she's all about like absolute trust and release in your inner, like you don't need needs anymore. She's the high vibration of Ceres, and Ceres is the higher vibration of the moon. So you can see the moon, if you know the moon, your inner moon, you're familiar with your basic needs, habits. Okay, so Pluto is metamorphosis, things that are secretly developed, undercover things, plumbing, sorry, anything that's disgusting. Yes, okay. Dictatorships, again, the whole tyranny thing I mentioned, unpopular things. Um, that's why I love underdog languages, because it's a Plutonian thing in me as well. It's like, oh, I love unpopular things. I love underdog languages. I love that stuff. So, okay, exclusivity. So kind of similar to being ostracized, pondering. Okay, having to process things, but it's more than thinking. It's pondering, going deeper into thought. The inevitable things that you can't. Like you look at we some. I was bringing in the garbage earlier because it's garbage day today. Um, that I was looking into. I was thinking, I got this, like, I guess you can say, download is hit. That it's like, imagine, because right now they're in Canada, the post office is on strike, or the post workers, postal mail people, mailmen, whatever, they're on strike. But I was like, okay, they're on strike. Imagine if garbage people were on strike. Yeah, process that. Okay, so anyways, I'm tying this to Pluto. So, okay, so things we take for granted, that's kind of like that too, right? Pondering the inevitable, right? We look at things underneath us, below us, like dirt, uh, shit, for fertilizers, soil itself also, the mycelial network. We don't realize how powerful it is. We don't realize the subtleties that we take for granted in life are just as powerful as anything else in the universe, right? So, and this is Pluto. Um, so Pluto is also about doctors, surgeons, detectives, undertakers. Yeah, right. So undertakers are, what's another word for them? Morticians. Okay, people who have strong Pluto placements, like I do, um, might end up working in a mortuary or a funeral home. Same with the other stuff too, especially Anubis and Osiris. I don't know about Apophis. Mm, Orcus too. Yeah, he might be that. So, okay. He's also about nuclear physics, so nuclear power. When Pluto was discovered in 1930 something, is it 1930 something? I forgot the year that was. That's when nuclear power was discovered. That's when they realized, oh, this is Pluto. Pluto was in the consciousness of humanity, or it started to be. It's like, oh, there's nuclear power, but then it was misused, right? So there you go. You see how that's tied to misuse. That nuclear power is powerful. That's why it's called power. Nuclear physicists, metaphysicians, psychologists, psychiatrists, management consultants, healers. Um, Pluto is very strong in psychology, for sure. Um, Less of astrology. That's more of a Scorpio thing. So so you see how they're kind of different, right? At least in one aspect. So I mentioned all that stuff. So basically, Pluto is the urge to regenerate. It's not just transformations, right? So destroying or reforming urge, fusion, right? Becoming whole. Where there is complexity, solving problems alone or unaided. Yes, strong Pluto placements have always been like that. We know certain people. For those people in chat right now, I know that we know certain people. But I'm going to mention, I might mention some of them, but they have Pluto Sun conjunction. So, okay. It just turned on. Good night. Okay. Good night, Terry. Okay. We'll see who else comes in. Thank you for staying, Lauren. Um, let's see here. All right. So Pluto in. All right. So Pluto, that's what it is. Humans are experiencing all that stuff right now. Right. It is trying to uh, Uranus right now and More Somnus. So I didn't mention More Somnus. More Somnus is a dwarf planet or binary dwarf planet. It's called binary. I don't know what it's called. But basically, it's More Somnus is apathy, sympathy, or empathy. He's about things that are below, waiting, eagerness, okay, things that are bound, inevitability. So it's very much like Pluto. But he's also about those things that, like, when we try to, when you're feeling kind of like tired and lethargic, listless, dopey. It says here mooniness, moony, nebbish, apathetic towards things. Just like, that's more somnus. Because more somnus represents morse is the death, somnus is sleepiness. So I think in Roman mythology, he was the two were tied together, or maybe not. I think they were tied together. And so yeah, that's right. So um, where when we're close to death, or when we feel like things are just like, I can't face this anymore, I can't do anything about it. That's exactly, it's more somnus. Okay. So he presents other half: unawareness, ignorance, disregard, um, defeated, feeling defeated. Okay. The whole toil and trouble, right? Sleeping powder. He represents the Sandman. If you've seen the show, the Netflix series Sandman, I bet you more somnus is strong there. So he's kind of like that. So he's like sleeping powder. He's like, you know. But what this really means is not because you're apathetic, but you could also be more like having compassion and waiting for what's beyond the veil. So more somnus represents all that stuff. Okay, so it represents calmness, mildness, gentleness, that empty feeling, eternal slumber. Okay, old age, disease, um, old age and disease, next of kin, will and testament. So people probably have written their next of kin now, because let's see here. Yeah, it's in writing. More somnus right now is retrograde in Gemini with Uranus. So things are changing in terms of how we're shifting as a society and what our knowledge is about that. Because it's in Gemini, things to have that have to do with messages, um, communication as well is changing and shifting, speech, language, expression, elocution, utterance, okay, articulation, respiratory system. So anyone who's going through some sort of lung stuff, respiratory system stuff, uh, falling asleep out of nowhere, snoozing, or if you're people have become narcoleptic, okay, sleep apnea is probably part of that too. And you sort of trance state, sort of like, between waking and sleeping. Sleep itself, yeah, drowsiness, laziness, lethargy, of course, fatigue. There's several things here too. Somnolence, if you know what that is. I think it's something to do with sleeping. Phlegmaticity, sluggishness, coldness, inactivity, lifelessness, fear of death or fear of sleeping. Sleep paralysis, because these are technically transits to people's charts. This is what I'm bringing up here. Murmuring or mumming. If you feel you've gotten some sort of mumming, like you're just murmuring, you can't really, something to do with breathing. Okay. Let's see here. Poppy sleep. Okay, when probably people are using sleep-inducing herbs or drugs or medicine. People are using more balms or salves or ointments, soothing agents. So there's something about high noon, 1200 hours. It could be noon or midnight. Um, Smoke, gusts of wind, currents. So something about the shift in the winds, shift in, because we're talking, it's tied to Uranus right now. Unexpected changes in neighbors as well. This ties in with Gemini. Adjacent home quarters. So there's changes with that. Like your neighbors are changing, people around you are changing. Your bed where you sleep, rather. Um, I don't know if people are going into escaping to like caverns or grottos or caves or into their rooms, probably, or escaping out of that, because it's in air signs right now. It's not necessarily going into the emotions. It's more like everything's kind of more like in thought. People might be copying each other more. They're mimicking each other. Um, okay, so again, shadow work is part of this one as well, but also shadows, any darkened locations, isolated places, dark, isolated places, um, where people are fighting or warring to death. And I don't want to be really negative. I'm just saying that's what it is. Punishments, maybe death rates either going up or going down. Um, guises, people going into guises or pretending to be something else. That can be sort of a tricky side that's tied to Gemini, tied to Mercury. Um, crimes, okay. Bonding, stoppers. What is that one here? Uh, taboos, extinctions, stuff like that. Things in 1000s, something about 1000 something. So that's tied to that as well here. Okay. Pluto is also trying to. What sign is this one here? Venus. Okay, so relationships are shifting and tied to whatever I just said earlier today. Okay, I'm not going to go into a bunch of Venus there. I just mentioned something about relationship. The fashion industry, entertainment, leisure stuff is also shifting. So we have a different perspective on modeling, how to look good, harmony, dance, music, anything that's pleasurable, anything that's harmonious, anything that's pleasing, anything that is, something that connects people to one another. How because it's tied to the air signs. It's all in air signs right now. And there's something to do with communication online as well. The internet, that's Uranus as well. Rules electricity as well. And there's a shift in the electricity stuff. So right now we're not expected to see that much inconsistency with electricity, but yeah, expect the unexpected. Uranus here is actually tied to. No, I'm just going to go with the other signs, the other planets here. So Osiris here is also in Gemini. I've kind of mentioned already what I did through Pluto, but it also means that there are replacements with communication. Anything with traveling, anything with journalism, the news, things are being replaced. Information, they're discovering that. Let's look into Osiris here. Yes, Lauren. Yes. Jeez. Jeez Louise. Okay. Okay, let's see here. What did I say? Osiris. Okay. So Osiris is, yes, discovery. So he's about covering, uncovering, discovering, and recovering. Resurrection. Um, there's probably new leaders in that are coming about when it comes to communication. Um, because it's tied to, what is it tied to right now? Oh, it's Square Proserpina. Let me go into this one for now. Um, oh, new information about, or rather, mm, because it's Square Proserpina, there might be some sort of like shifting between uh, veganism and vegetarianism. I totally forgot about Osiris being about vegetables. That's what he is, because he's about the reeds and vegetation, vegetables, farming. Um, so there might be sort of cycles between the two. Some people will be resisting veganism. I've seen that already. It's just like everybody's whining on both sides, just like wasting energy, wasting energy. Uh, let's see here. Either you choose to or you don't. It's up to you. You make the choice. You deal with the consequences, or as I call it, not consequences, results. Whatever the outcome is, you deal with that then. Okay. He's also about Osiris is also about This one's kind of tricky. Because it's tied to Proserpina in Virgo. I don't know, amputation? Hold on. I don't know. I do know that the vegetables part is part of this one. Vegetation, vegetables, vegetarianism, veganism. What else is this one? Something about farming, gardens, fields, shepherds, rams, herds, reed instruments? No. Substitutions. Crumbling or breaking apart of things, naturally. Okay. Either animate or inanimate ones. Okay. Rubble and ruins. Okay. So things that we're probably learning about. Yeah, so probably because of the earthquakes happening, it's leaving a lot of ruins, a lot of like all that stuff. That makes sense. Ancient ruins is part of that too, but maybe a resurgence of knowledge about ancient sites. Cloning, okay. Um, Shedding, skin, scabs, fragments. Let's see here. Confiscated items, forfeits. Okay, lost and found, missing persons. Okay. Here you go. So things to do with traveling and education. That's a different one. So Proserpina, I'm going to connect this. You'll see what I mean when I put this together. Proserpina is about adaptation. So she's also about cycles, fertility. Okay. So because it's tied to Proserpina, I feel like it's tied to the little things when it comes to fertility, because Osiris is about male reproduction typically, but it's reproduction. So it's tied to Proserpina. So there's that whole thing with that whole like fertility thing, right? So and adapting to the little things, being flexible. That's what it is. Okay, because it's tied to Virgo. It's also about things related to seedlings, grains, fruits, seeds, saplings. Okay, I mentioned before pomegranate, right? Fruits with seeds. So people are starting to eat and go into fruits with seeds, grains, going to more like that kind of diet. Don't be surprised. Uh, Not that you can't control it. You can be surprised all you want. um, Maybe relationships that are or relationships when it comes to information, people you work with, your neighbors that you grow to love. Okay. Um, Nurturing the young because it's tied to both Mercury ruled Gemini and Virgo. It's all about youth as well. So nurtured young. So young people that are being nurtured. So Proserpina is reaping what you sow and sowing what you reap. Let's see here. Ooh, child marriages. Are those still things? Okay. Okay. Again, fertilizers or fertility on fertilizers, nurturing growth. So that's something to do with the whole Osiris thing I mentioned earlier about the fertilizing and farming and all that stuff, vegetation. But it's also about nutrition. So transplanting, farming, seeding, sowing and reaping, nutrition. Yeah. So people are probably becoming more aware, especially with Virgo, with the South Node right now. Humanity's South Node is actually tied to Orcus. So because that means that we're getting more in touch with the integral part of our health, our nutrition, right? But it is at least Proserpina here is square Osiris, so that means that sometimes maybe there's challenges with what do I do to replace this? How am I going to replace it? I don't know. I need to get more knowledge. Right. So um, one of the things I noticed here is that okay, so Osiris is quincunx to Mars, so some of us might be totally against that. Some of us might be totally against, like adapting to certain things and being afraid of things that are replacing previous things, previous knowledge, because this is Gemini, previous things that we took for granted. So now it's like things are coming up. And the Mars here represents our action towards those replacements, things we need to change in our lives, things that we need to transform. Sometimes it's so hard to transform when we're so used to something. And Mars is in Scorpio, and he's a very stubborn energy. That means it's like we need to learn how to adapt to that. Because sometimes maybe you don't need to have a full on like sudden change in your life, but just gradual little changes. And that's where the challenges come in, right? Virgo rules little things. But as you go through it, do the little things. That's exactly what the South Node in Virgo is telling us. But conjunct Orcus and Proserpina. Learn to love it. Learn to love it, but eventually. But there might be kind of some sort of confusion behind it because you have here Asmodeus is a demon. Okay. He's about anger, wrath, vengeance, control, sexuality, sexual predation, imbalances, all those kind of things. But I feel like because it's in Virgo, what this feels to me is, let's see here, that whole reliance or dependence upon what others tell you or know what to do, the unconscious or the conscious. Virgo rules the sixth house. That's the unconscious. Okay, so you want to make the unconscious to conscious, meaning not just like knowing it. It's not just some sort of conceptual knowing. You have to put effort into it. You put it into action. Okay, Bashar says there is no disconnection between experience and understanding. What else is there? Egoic purity, connected impurity. That's very Virgo as well. So purity. So when it comes to Asmodeus here, this whole thing with humanity's South Node, learning of these things, sometimes we might just play around with things. There might be certain hindrances. We don't know what's going on, but it says the genie in the bottle, or what they call it here, because of Asmodeus's placement here, the devil you don't know. Um, but it's potential for awakening through introspection, right? Like I said before. So watch out for warning signs and kind of the little things, but don't worry. The North Node is an opposite sign in Pisces, so that means we are here to actually learn from it. We are here to let go. We are here to know the little things that we need to experience the things, but don't be too attached to the perfection of things, right? Um, and learning to trust what's happening right in front of you, right in front of you, right now. Let's see here. Gambling. I don't know if people are gambling more, but games is probably part of this one because it is Proserpina tied to square to Osiris in Gemini. Gemini is about games and playing. Let's see here. It's tied to the whole thing. The whole thing with Proserpina here. So there could be the whole like carnal desire stuff, unions that are about lust and all that stuff. Like like what's that one? What's that website called? Um, where they have like individual like made porn. It's not professionally made. What is it called? I don't know. I saw it one time, several times, but I didn't go there. Trust me, I didn't go there. I just was like, what? Maybe I did. I don't know. That's the point. No, that's not the point. What is the point? I don't know what the point is. Okay. So sexual predation, that's part of this one. So sexual predators, watch out for those. Mm, disabilities or handicap stuff, limping. Okay. Um, if people are born at this time, that might be sort of a condition. It doesn't mean that they're any less worthy or anything like that. I'm just saying that's what it is. Any children or babies with deformities, um, kind of that kind of stuff. What else am I seeing here? Oh, there's something about immortality and genies or jinns. Interesting. Oh, bestiality. Watch out for that one too. Something random. Unfiltered. Yes. All right. Okay. Let's see what else we have here. I wanted to tie it to Pluto. I feel like the other ones are not that valid, but because I'm looking at usually when I do readings, I tie to the big planets. When I say big planets, I don't necessarily mean that they're as more important, but to make the readings a bit more succinct and more, focus, that's what I need to focus on. Because Pluto is in Aquarius, its ruling planet is Uranus. We go to Uranus, which I already did, but we also go to Saturn. So let's go to Saturn right now. 27 degrees conjunct Neptune. So there's a dissolution happening with systems. It's in retrograde, so there's a focus of it. That add that to Neptune. Neptune is also jump starting that whole thing because it's in the 0 degrees, as Pam calls it. It's the potential degree. You see that right there. It's in 0 degrees, 19 minutes retrograde. So there's a huge focus on literally shifting the old systems and kind of recreating something new, stabilizing it, making it more like something that actually is worth more for the benefit of humanity, because Saturn is the traditional ruler of Aquarius. So that makes sense why that's happening. It is actually sextile to Pluto. So that means that by choice, again, by choice, free will, do we choose to do that? Do we choose to dissolve things that no longer serve us? Or do we still give into the fear that is Saturn? Do we give into the whole like, I don't know what's ahead of me. No, I just trust the moment. No, or what do we do? Right? Trust takes courage. I posted one video one time, not here, on my Instagram, where I said, um, what is it? Trust is actually a process, because you can't just be like, I trust what's going on. No, it takes practice, but it has to be met with courage, because courage isn't the opposite. What is it? What is it? What is the phrase? Courage isn't necessarily opposite. Notice I said not necessarily the opposite of the lack of courage. Courage just means you go for it regardless. Or is that trust? Yeah, that's trust. Sorry, I'm analyzing it too much. Okay. So the point is, there's a dissolution happening right now in society. Okay, systems are falling apart, probably for new systems, but maybe not so systems, because we need Saturn. We need that forming things. We need things. We need things in this third dimensional world. Because if we deny that, then we're just escaping it. We're just running away from it. We're going to create the same shit as we did before. Hmm? And it's actually opposite of Asmodeus and Venus. So that means that what I mentioned earlier about the whole, what did I say there? Trickery, or feeling like we're not sure what's happening. What did I say here? Hindrances, okay? Violations, mischief, playfulness, frivolity, things we don't know. The devil you don't know, or the devil you know, the devil you know, and the devil you don't know. Right? So that's very interesting, because we know the old systems, but do they work for us now? But what's ahead? What's before that? Saturn is used to be in traditional astrology. Before we knew Uranus, we only knew of Saturn. Saturn often represented death back then, represented kind of like, I don't know what's ahead. So okay, I think that's it. Because once we don't know what's ahead of what we don't know, once what we don't know, back then there was this belief, subconscious belief that humanity had, is like, what we don't know will kill us. That's exactly what the belief was. Um, so yeah, so be careful what you wish for. Be careful what you bring in. What when I say wish for, in this case, what you solidify, what you calcify, what you form, what you structuralize, what you put into matter. Okay. Okay. So it's just about being cautious, but not, or skeptical, but not being pessimistic. Okay. What is Saturn trying? Oh, Saturn is trying to Jupiter. Okay. So there's an expansion of that energy as well. So there's a growth, especially in the homes, private homes, any form of home, family circles, any sort of family, any sort of groups, any form of security, any form of bodies of water. There's an expansion, dissolution. Why? It's also ice is still melting in Antarctica, that kind of stuff. Saturn is still in Pisces, and so is Jupiter is in Cancer, so there's water there. That means that it is actually, and actually Jupiter is trying mean. This mean thing you're seeing there is the middle part of Lilith. So when we're working on a shadow as a collective, we're in the middle of it, at least in this point in time. That means we're going deep into the transformational process of what it is to be ourselves, but at the same time, accept that sometimes, it's almost like being ourselves, but for what purpose? We can't just be a rebel for the sake of being a rebel. We can't just uh, sleep with demons for the sake of sleeping with demons. Notice I use quotation like this. Okay. So, yeah. So, Lauren, are you still there? Okay. Okay. Not sure if you're still okay. That's fine. Um, mm, but Lilith um, is actually square Lilith herself with Persephone. So yeah, this is kind. I already kind of mentioned it already. Like it's wanting to. Let's go deep into Lilith. Okay, so shadow, transmutation, your inner animal and your inner human, death and rebirth, of course, temptations, bringing and acceptance, rejection of truth. Um, Unconscious or conscious. Earlier I said unconscious to conscious. So there's a similarity there. Here it's almost like Persephone showing us because she's about shifting. Remember, Persephone was taken by Hades to the underworld, but because she goes back up. So what she represents is that whole thing. But because she keeps shifting, there's cycles. That means also cycles of humanity going like, oh, that was unconscious of me. Oh, that was conscious. Oh yeah, I knew what I was saying. Okay, so always being in the present by going back into what's surrounding me, what's right now, what am I touching, using my body as an anchor, as a te- tether. Um, so right. So I hope that makes sense. Duality or non-duality, yin yang. Okay, of course. Um, as above, so below. So either we are separating things or are we integrating things? She's kind of like Chiron to a certain degree. She's feminine power. She's primordial female, misuse of power. So very Plutonian. Okay, vengeance. Okay, she's slightly different from Proserpina, where she is. Oh, sorry, this is Lilith. Sorry, my bad. I'm thinking of Persephone. So Lilith is vengeance, loss of virginity, okay, pure rejection, purification. Humanity is going through right now. Let's see. Yeah, there's a rejection thing I said earlier about Mars in Scorpio showing that we might reject these shifts that's happening in society. Shifting to a healthier diet, shifting what we know about things. Um, Sometimes maybe going too far with, being against men. Because I've seen this happen to me. We're just like, okay, what did I do? Sort of thing. It's like, okay. But there's just a lot of anger, um, especially when you've been misused, especially of your sexual energy, right? I can understand that. Maybe I cannot, but choices still have to be made, and consequences or results have to be brought to mind. Okay. Okay, so people going off track as well because Lilith is not retrograde. Okay, that's fine. So people might be going into things like, of course, magic, witchcraft, sorcery, those kind of things, exorcism, vampirism per se. I don't know if there's castrations, sexual stuff, sexual promiscuity, urinating, ejaculation, unwanted sex, rape, unwanted pregnancies, abortions, stillbirth, miscarriages, ribs, sorry. It says because this might be transit again to someone's chart, it could be something about your ribs, left side of the body, again, your sexuality, any sort of lustful things, but that's not really medical, but kind of, it could be. If it's too much, high libido, menstruation periods, those kind of things. Any sort of abortions. Um, So it's the same thing as the whole when you say abortion, right? It's kind of seen by pro-life people as similar to um, ejaculation. It's like you're wasting your seed, kind of thing, right? But I was like, well, it's weird. It's either way. There's that two-sided stuff here, but you see the energy there. There's like two-sided stuff that's happening, one against the other, yada yada, and just like it all boils down to your choice. It really is the age of choice, right? The age of Aquarius is ruled by both Saturn and Uranus. One is youth and one is the old stuff. They're both kind of conservative, but what's happening there is that do we go towards something new? Do we go with the old? Or do we accept both? Age of choice. So, not to be too serious there. Okay. Okay, so then this is also authority figures. All these things that I'm basically saying right now is actually tied into what I just said already with Saturn conjunct Neptune, with placement of Jupiter there, with placement of Uranus and Pluto. The asteroid just give us a little bit more detail, and I'd love to go further into the other stuff, but I feel like I'm not sure who else is coming here, but I think that's about it. I'm kind of getting tired. My voice is starting to wane. Uh, okay. So that's that. I don't know if there's any other questions. I don't know, Lauren, are you still there? If you have any questions, not about a person, not about your chart, but more about general things. I'm gonna wait for a bit if there are any questions. No. Okay. Let's see what happens here. I don't know if Lauren, you're still there, but anyways, actually, let me see if anybody's. Nope, nope, nope. Good, awesome. Okay, well, I think that's it. It's already been about 2 hours. I'm gonna call it a day. I'm gonna stop, and I'm just gonna call it there. Some people probably I noticed here. I think Terry was saying that it's you saw just a black screen. Sorry, it's not me. It's just technology right now. Again, technology is transforming, so that's part of the process. But you'll see it. It'll be in my channel. It'll be recorded. It'll be like, oh, it's about 2 hours. Okay, I talked a lot. Next time I'll cut this down to 1 hour because I realized, yeah, I can't go on for 2 hours. Just to also reserve my energy for that kind of stuff. But if there are no more questions, I will leave it here. Thank you guys for coming. Thank you for watching. For those who are also going to be watching this, thank you. If you have any comments, write them down below. Not anything that will be invalidating or anything like that at all. Okay. Because I will not respond to those, just to let you know. But have fun with the information you got today. It is for educational purposes or informational purposes, whatever it is. Remember, it's the age of choice. However you do things, whatever you do is really up to you. Co-create or don't co-create. Not trying to be apathetic about it, like more someness, but it is the age of choice. You have the power to be expansive or not be expansive or constrictive. So again, it's not about right or wrong. It's just which direction you go. Either way, it's still fine. The universe will support you, and I know that that's been working for me. Yeah, with the littlest things, so much to be grateful for. So many things to learn and grow out of. Not just conceptually learning, but like experientially learning. And those kind of things. But thanks again for watching. I'll see you guys later. I think that's it. While I close this, thank you, Lauren, for staying behind. If you're still there, thank you, Terry, and anybody else who I kind of missed. I don't know. Thank you. I will see you later. Bye.